live event? No, but we're going to do it anyway. All right, so welcome to the LVTech, what do you call this thing, Lightning Bar? It's definitely one of our more casual styled meetups. We do it because the summer crowds tend to be a little sporadic. And we like to get a feel for what people are talking about. We are streaming it live, so you'll be able to see this on YouTube whenever I go back to it and hit the button that makes it public on YouTube. There may be people actually watching the stream now. Isn't that exciting? And we're going to start. That's weird. I say maybe, very loosely there, maybe. And we're going to start, if I can figure out how to do it, with the Fab Lab. And you guys want me to play this video first, right?
We can stand up there while you're playing.
You could stand up and look at the video. You could watch it while we watch you watching it. That sounds perfect. Before we do that, I'll start in a second. Before we do that, just a couple minutes. How many of this is your first LVTech meetup? Wayne. I see you often, but it's still your first. That's interesting. So we just want to say thanks to Ben Franklin for letting us use this more often than not in our meetups. And also, if you're not familiar with LVTech, we do meetups every month or so. There's a social meetup that happens the first Tuesday, and then this more presentation-oriented meetup that happens on the second Tuesday, or third Tuesday, sorry. We do a variety of meetups. Generally speaking, it's 3 demos and some Q&A. Sometimes it's more of a panel, and then sometimes we do something that's very unplanned and kind of organic like this. We also host 2 or so large-scale events, which I'll probably talk more about at the end of the meetup. But if you want to know more about us, best place to find information is actually not LVTech.org unless you use that site just to click on the link that says Meetups. Most of the information that we have is on our Meetup site. So, and I'm assuming that's where most everybody found us. Who did not find us through Meetup? You did not find us through Meetup. Fair enough, fair enough. But you should go to Meetup now, because there's way more information about us. So, all right, so without me rambling on much longer, feel free to grab pizza if you want some in the back. And Fab Lab guys, come on up. What do you got, 10 minutes, is that what it is?
Yep.
All right, here's your mic. I will stay standing here. You will stay standing there. Somebody will find a mic, and I will try to put this up on the big screen in a second.
My name is Jeff Berner. I'm the director of the Fab Lab at Northampton Community College.
All right, and I'm Brian Feldman. I'm one of the instructors at the community college. I teach Arduino, robotics, and electronics classes there. And we recently built a 6-foot robot arm called Tobor as kind of a project to showcase all the different talents that everyone in the Fab Lab has. And we have a short video to show you on screen right now.
And we'll see if the audio works.
Peter came to me easily about 10 o'clock in the morning about 5 weeks ago and said, oh, I got accepted into the Maker Faire in San Francisco for my robot. And wouldn't it be cool if we could get our robot done in time? And I said, well, what if we really go for it and make like this beautiful, beautiful big robot? Because we just sat there and talked about it and thought, if we really plan this right, we could do this. We could pull this off. And then I got everyone together like 2 or 3 days later, and I said, if you guys are willing to put some time in, we can pull this off and we can put the Fab Lab on the map.
The team of dedicated instructors got to work designing and fabricating Tobor, 6-foot-tall robot arm with haptic feedback. Putting together Tobor required the collaboration of people, expertise, and all of the different specialties found in the Fab Lab. The team consisted of world-class experts in woodworking, 3D printing, molding, machining, laser cutting, audio, electronics, and robotics. The team worked furiously to meet the audacious goal of completing Tobor in time for the Maker Faire development. in May of 2015, just a few short weeks away. The general design was formulated from components from many different suppliers in order to give them more its functionality. The structure was built from carbon fiber and metal. The gripper hand consisted of servos and 3D printed and cast materials. The base was constructed wood. The motion was provided by strong electric linear actuators and an electric motor to spin the base. The glove control toe bore relied on accelerometers and sensing position. And control of the entire system ran on Arduino boards that are wirelessly communicated. Board showcased the unique abilities of the team working on it and the talent available to family. It started off as a vision and demonstrated what is possible when a bunch of extremely dedicated and capable people come together and collaborate, working for a goal. It would have been too risky and too slow to use a traditional shipping company to get Chocomore out to California. So a group of instructors did a cannonball run across the country in a minivan, making it from Pennsylvania to California in 3 days, just in time for the maker. Chocomore attracted huge crowds and cheering and was one of the major attractions of the Maker Fair, giving the Fab Lab nationwide recognition.
Peter came to me easily about 10 o'clock in the morning about 5 weeks ago and said, oh, I got accepted into the Maker Fair in San Francisco. And wouldn't it be cool if we could get our robot done in time? And I said, well,
you guys are just doing realize this over.
Yeah, we're stuck
So we
now.
set up for 10 minutes, it's fine.
Like Groundhog Day.
you sat there and talked about it.
We'll hit the button, we'll hit it now. So, if you're watching online, hopefully I just linked to the video so you didn't have to watch it being watched, so.
So what we really did was take all the disciplines in the Fab Lab, and my goal, our goal, was to take even the woodworkers and the audio guy, Anthony, put yourself into this project. So 14 of the 21 instructors contributed to it. We got it done in 7 weeks. And now it's in phase 2. So it's going to the New York Maker Fair. And it's also being demonstrated at the Northampton celebration for its 10th year at Fowler. And we're going to start taking it around and demonstrating it as it takes on different shapes and forms and does other things. It's really cool because it has a special quality, and that's called haptics. And I'm going to let Brian tell you about that.
Okay. If you'll notice in the video where there were parts where we were assembling and testing a glove, and I remember when we first had this thing working, you know, we'd been working on this for a couple of weeks, and Jeff comes in and we're ready to do the first test, and the robot arm is starting to rise, and Jeff comes in and has absolutely no idea how we're controlling it. And I think it was Peter had the glove on, and Peter's raising his hand like this with the glove, and Jeff looks over and just has this look of like shock on his face, like, is that how you guys are controlling it? So what made this really, really special is we had several accelerometers in the glove instead of, you know, some other device, which, you know, like a joystick or something like that, that's not really intuitive. So to control it, you can raise your hand or bend your wrist or twist your wrist, and then you can close your hand, and that controls the gripper on the end of the arm. And when you squeeze on something, the gripper detects the amount of torque that the servos are applying, so it'll start vibrating your finger depending on how much force you're applying, and that's how you can tell that you grip something. So one of the things that we want to do, as part of our further refinements, is we want to make the hand even better and add more fingers to it, make it even more realistic and easier to control so that you can feel more of what you're picking up.
There's one aspect that was very important to me, and that was the aesthetic aspect. To continue to divide those of us who are more aesthetically inclined and those of us who are more electronically and engineering inclined. And the Fab Lab has both of those in a very strong way, but they had to be involved in this project, and it really came out when we were discussing the different aspects of how it was going to actually look compared to the engineering of how it had to be in order to function. So it was really fun to see that all come together in 7 weeks. We're going to demonstrate it at one of the meetups, right, Tim?
Yeah, hopefully October or so.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to putting it into phase 2, so it takes on a little bit different look, and it takes on a little bit better mechanisms and working capabilities.
And you're also welcome to come check it out at the Fab Lab anytime you want to take a tour. We're right in downtown Bethlehem, 511 East 3rd Street, or across from Social Still, if that's a better landmark for some of you.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And speaking of, go ahead. I saw some hands. Go. Speaking of the Maker Faire New York will be happening in, September 26th, 7th.
26 and 27?
Yeah, 26th and 27th. Sounds good. And Make LV, the local maker group, is putting together a bus trip there. So if you want to get to Maker Faire New York, check that out. I think the campaign is a crowdfunding campaign, has 7 or 8 days left, I believe. And they need about 5 more tickets sold so they can get the bus. After the fact, they still have tickets for sale, but they need to make that cutoff so they don't so they don't lose the bus. Is basically the reason why it ends in a couple of days. So check that out if you want to go to Maker Faire New York. It's I've been to San Mateo. I haven't been to New York. Maker Fairs are pretty interesting. Have you been to New York?
I've been to New York.
Yeah.
New York's cool.
They're really cool stuff. So
New York's the largest, right? Or is it San Francisco?
I think San Francisco is still the largest.
Bay
Because it's the
Area is
home,
the
yeah, the Bay Area is the home base. So next up, we have Jim with strategic and tactical planning for small business. So there you go.
Great, thank you. My name is Jim McEwen. My company is Semantics Consulting. And what I wanted to talk about was the importance of strategic and tactical planning for small and startup technology companies. And before I get into my thoughts on that, my background is sales and marketing. I've been there my entire professional career. Spent the first 15 years working for 2 very large multinational electronics firms, Honeywell and ITT. And for the past 20 years, I've had the fortunate and very rewarding experiences of working with small companies. Again, primarily electronic and technology companies. So what I've discovered over my entire career, actually even large companies aren't very good at strategic planning, but I think it's vitally important for small companies especially to plan where they want to be, where they want to take their business. The companies that I've worked with and worked for really left too much to chance on where their business was going to go. They just didn't know. And it amazed me that companies were in business actually generating revenue, some quite successful, and they had no kind of end goal in sight where they wanted to be. So for small companies, it's hard, I think, to get people to focus on, a 3-5 year horizon. They're worried about, where's the business going to come from next week, next month, next year. And there's going to come some point in time where you hit that level where you have to start making decisions that are more on a strategic, longer term level. And that's where I think I have some expertise and I can help companies. I've done it, it works, and the companies I've worked for have been successful, I think, because to a great degree, they understood the marketplace a lot better than their competitors. It's that simple. You know, if you know what's going on, if you have a better feel for the business and your markets and your customers, you know, your chances of being successful are going to be pretty high as well. So my mantra is focus, structure, and discipline. And in focus, it's things like missions and goal setting. What is your unique value proposition? How do you differentiate yourself from everybody else that's out there in the marketplace? Do you sell on value? That's ideally what you want to do, is value sell versus just selling on price. And so, I mean, those are things that I think a lot of companies have a pretty good feel for, especially technology companies. From a structural point of view, do you have the organization to support your business growth? A lot of small companies, there's a lot of holes in their management structure. Eventually they'll fill it in as they grow and they get the resources to add people in there, but it's important to have a staffing plan in place. Policies and procedures, you know, so you don't continue to make the same mistakes over and over again. You know, you need that kind of structure in your organization. And probably the most important thing in the structural part of it is communicating. You're putting together this great overall plan. It's important that everyone in your organization participate in the process, and everyone's on board, and everyone's, you know, all pulling in the right direction. Discipline, you know, once you get all this in place, anytime a decision comes up, you have to pretty much abide by, you know, where you're laying out your business. You don't want to run around, chase down business opportunities that don't really fit into the long-term interests of the company. And maybe another important thing under discipline is listen to what your customers have to say. This is an ongoing process. It's not, you know, set in concrete. You have to be flexible. Things change. You know, your customers change, your competitors change. And so you have to have that flexibility when moving forward. And maybe, you know, Michael Porter, who's, you know, management guru thing, I like to use little quotes here. He really said the essence of strategy is really choosing what not to do. Just a couple of other things that I've discovered, you know, different fallacies about. Planning is not a short-term fix. It's more of a long-term solution to your business, helping grow your business. It's certainly not quick or easy. I mean, it requires a significant investment of your resources, you know, time, you know, diligence, and really you have to look at perspective from really very much an unbiased viewpoint of your business. Everyone thinks they have the greatest thing going. You know, you really have to take a candid look at where you really fit into the market and, you know, what you need to do to improve your business. Strategic planning is not technology oriented, it's more customer centric. It's important that you have the greatest products in the world. I've worked for companies where the engineering group has gone off and done all kinds of crazy stuff because they think it's a neat thing to do. There's no opportunity ever to sell it, there's no customers. So it's important that you, you know, pay attention to what the customers are demanding. It's not reactive or passive behavior, it's more of a proactive mindset that you have to take. It's an ongoing process. And it's really not about spending money, it's more about, you know, making money in the long run. So let me just leave it that, as I said before, it's your business is too important to you to leave things to chance. It's really important that you understand your market. And I just very simply, I'd say to people that, again, the company that best understands where its position is in the marketplace and what its strengths and weaknesses are is probably going to be, you know, successful in the long run. The first small company, startup I ever worked for is one of the, a graduate of the Ben Franklin, you know, Technology Incubator Program. The company at the time I joined was known as QED, located down in the Bethlehem Technology Center. And, you know, we grew that business from about $750,000 to $40 million in 3.5 years. We had a great product, we had a good management team, but the important thing was the management team really embraced the strategic and tactical planning aspects of the business, how important it was. And to a great degree that contributed to our success. So I'll leave it at that. If anyone's interested to speak a little bit further, I'll be here all night, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Matt Bilski, and he's going to talk about something interesting. The Universal Strain Gauge app.
Amplifier.
Amplifier, okay, so.
APP. How's it going, everybody? My name is Matt Bilski. I'm a PhD candidate here at Lehigh in the Mechanical Engineering Department. I do smart product development and novel robotics, mechatronics. And I'm going to talk to you about a little side project I did here with one of my interns who was funded by the KIZ this summer. So in my research, we came to the point, I'm doing some novel drilling robotics, that we need to figure out how much thrust and torque you need to drill through wood. Which kind of seems like a fundamental question, but the tools out there to do it cost about $80,000 for just the sensor, not including the CNC machine you have to throw it in. I built one for $600. It's called Frank, but that's a story for another time. But it came down to using strain gauges on there, and you use the same amplifier every time to really measure those strain gauges. And you can buy a $5 chip and build a little bit of circuitry, but anybody who's kind of familiar with this knows how temperature dependent they are and how fussy they are, and your sensors kind of go crazy. So I said, why don't we build a low-cost universal amplifier? If you look at like the Omega Engineering's out there and those companies, you're looking at $200 for basically a $5 chip and some circuitry. And I'm on a very tight budget for my research, and kits is kind of what's always interested me because you don't need a lot of approval. And looking on SparkFun, Adafruit, the Hackaday store, they have a breakout board for everything these days. And there's a company, Fidgets, that sells strain gauges and stuff. But they have this board that you just plug into the computer, and it doesn't really give you a lot of control. I want to take an ugly strain gauge signal and get a sexy DC signal that you can put into anything for cheap. And so through KIZ funding, I hired an electrical engineer this summer to help me with my research. And one of the tools we worked on is, this is the second generation here. It doesn't work. He's going to be a work study student in the fall to finish it. But it's basically that you can take any old DC amplifier, wall wart, put it in, and power your gauge, and then use push buttons. So very user intuitive, up, down to increase, decrease the supply voltage, up, down to increase, decrease the gain, and also your offset, so it lets you swing. And we added a couple cool features where you could cap the output to like 5 volts or 3.3 volts into your microcontroller. Because if you're using a computer DAC, you get a large swing, but if you're using a microcontroller, big fear is over voltage. So the goal is to make it cheap. I've been talking to a lot of the other labs near me and trying to get the other grad students to be like, well, rather than giving Omega $150, how about you give me 20? And so they say, well, prove it to us that it works. And where we're at is actually a weird thing where it's going to be cheaper to throw an AT Tiny on here and let that talk to our digital potentiometers than doing it all with analog circuitry, which is something that I was actually talking about with one of the electrical engineers this morning. It was really weird to think about, that it's cheaper to put a microcontroller on something than to just put some switches and some wires, because we have to double them up, and we really need these high voltage digital pots, cool, low noise power amplifiers and stuff. So hopefully in the next few months, his kind of research, I guess, as a student will be making this work and selling his kits.
Thank you. Next we have Chuck with, I lost my place here, Teamability. Teamability, and I got to bring a couple slides for you, so give me 1 second here. If I can do that. You just tell me when to go to the next slide.
Oh, I gotta tell you, I can't just.
Yeah,
push a
no,
button
this is a collaborative thing.
Okay.
I mean, the whole thing says teamability, right?
Yeah, they're two slides. All two slides. All right, well, I was hoping to stand here and put my stuff down.
Well,
You take
I'll
that.
take that.
I don't need
I
that.
think this is
Okay, so yeah, you can talk in.
I'm gonna grab this stuff. I'll grab that.
Okay.
Tim,
That's
turn
rather
on that
complicated.
mic.
I'm sorry, what's that?
That mic is on, actually.
This mic, I think, is on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, hopefully I won't need the mic. So My name is Chuck Hall. I work with a lot of startup businesses. I have my master's in organizational dynamics, which is really how people work together well in organizations to deliver the results you're looking for. So there's this system called Teamability. This is really nice. I should have just sat down. I feel like a professor in front of a class. So there's a system called Teamability that's developed by the Gabriel Institute, which is a startup in Philadelphia. These behavioral scientists wanted to look at how teams operate and say, is there technology that we can deploy to do this? So they've developed an online system that anybody can go on. You have to be registered. You can't just go on from out in the universe. You have to work with a Teamability consultant like myself. You can go on and you do about an hour-long profile, and at the end, it gives you a Teamability report. Well, this is really awesome because what it finds is that there are basically 10 Teamability types. These are roles that people are naturally inclined to gravitate towards. And you can have more than one role, or you can just have one role on the team. So these are the 10 roles, and there are lots of, these are just a couple of slides from easily an hour-long presentation. So I just want to give you a taste of it. But so for instance, an explorer is somebody who might go out, find new technology, find new things, and bring them back to the team. They would be miserable sitting down doing kind of like detailed financial analysis or something like that. They would rather be out meeting people, looking at new technology, exploring and bringing treasures back to the team. Likewise, someone who is a conductor, they like to solve very narrow problems. They maybe like to debug problems in programs or fix billing problems or whatever. And what the foundation of Teamability is that you want to get the right people in the right roles. And if you're in a job or in a role on a team that you are most comfortable and most naturally aligned for, you're going to be the happiest and make the greatest contribution to the team. So that's one of the things that this does. Now I could theoretically push the button and go.
Push the next button, see if it works.
Enter.
Try that. Perfect.
Oh, it did. Okay, it just didn't go here.
No, it's not going to go
Okay.
there.
So the second thing that Teamability measures is coherence, which is how aligned people are with team goals. Right smack in the middle, so the formatting got a little crunched in the PowerPoint translation, but right smack in the middle is coherent. People who are coherent under stress are likely to remain focused on the team goals. As you go out from the middle, if people are diffuse or rigid, under stress, they're not likely to stay on team goals. They may stray from the team goals, or if someone's rigid, they may go back to focus on their team goals. In between are people who have those tendencies to maybe stray from the team goals. So what does all of this mean? In organizations, general rule of thumb is about 80% of your spend is going to be on people and people-related expenses. And we do all kinds of things where we analyze the computer systems, we do market research, we do all kinds of things, but we don't necessarily have a way that we quantify team chemistry. And that's really what Teamability does, is it gives you a system, it goes through, it's scientifically based, I'm not a mathematician, but the possible combinations of responses on this are something, like 10 to the 100th power or something like that, some astronomical number. But here's the good news. So the Gabriel Institute a few years ago went out and did a Kickstarter campaign in order to raise money to offer this system completely free to entrepreneurs who are in startup organizations, as well as college students in the university setting, maybe who are studying entrepreneurship or business and the like. Over the last several years, the last couple of years of doing this, they haven't had as many entrepreneurs willing to take advantage or stepping up to take advantage of this free service that they offer. So I'm here to say, if you are in a startup business or if you are affiliated with a university, you can give me your card and you can go on and do your Teamability profile completely free, and I'll be happy to work with you on that. The real magic of this happens is when you have your whole team do team ability. Because what happens, I'm gonna really try to fly without a net here and go back. What happens is when you get a mix of the right roles focused together on the team for what you need to accomplish, your team magic will just be phenomenal. So, for instance, when you're in a startup just getting off the ground, you really want to make sure you have a founder who's kind of the big idea person. You want to have a vision former who's going to create the strategy and really put some bounds. If anybody's ever worked with a founder who has like 1 million ideas a minute and then they never stop, before that idea is out and implemented, they got 5 more ideas for you, right? So a vision former will help say, wait a minute, give the team time. These are all great ideas, but let's focus on this. And then the vision mover is going to push things through the organization and get them done. So I really love team ability. I wish I had an hour to tell you all about it and let everybody have their team ability reports in front of you so that you could see how it works and see whether it adds up for you. I can tell you, if you'd like your team ability report, just see me after the program, give me your business card, and I'll go ahead and register you. You'll get a link in your email, and you can go ahead and do it, and you'll get your report sent to you, all at no charge, after you complete the report.
So this is the thing you did at the Founders Institute a couple of years ago, right?
The Founders Institute.
The co-founder event that you guys did.
Yes.
Yes. Because I did this.
Yeah.
Can this be done in groups? So like, can we bring a bunch of companies in? Do we need to like isolate one company at a time, or can I like bring the whole incubator and say, hey, everybody's going to do this at once?
So here's the way it would work. You could introduce it to everybody in the incubator all at once. Everybody can go and do it on their computer at their own time, and then you really want to have teams work together on it.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to do a presentation, either before or after, maybe after, because then people would actually know what their team ability is. And then there's a lot. I just barely touched the surface, but one of the big things is with teams is how to work most effectively together by understanding what your other team members, what their roles are.
You've got 2 minutes if there's any other questions.
I just have one quick question. Can one individual have several roles?
Yes, one individual can have several roles. In fact, my role is I'm a vision former and vision mover.
Right.
So I tend to work very well with founders in helping them understand, figure out which ideas they should move ahead with now, and then how to move them ahead. Yeah, in the back. Either one of you guys are sitting next to each other. You pick.
How well does it work for small teams, like 3 or less people?
Works really well.
Does it show the gaps of what you really need?
Yeah, it does. And so I just had an experience where I'm working, or I did team ability with a couple of guys who were in the military together in special forces. They decided to form a business together after they finished their MBA. There's just 2 of them. They took it and they were amazed because they said, wow, this is why we work so well together, because we complement each other's skills completely. And so now they're using it as they're hiring new people into their startup. They're using it to try to identify and to screen people who are going to be good fits for their team and what they need out of them. Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned earlier that one person had multiple roles. Have you ever come across anyone who's had all the roles?
Has had all the roles? I have not. The most I have seen is 4. 3, I would say, is really unusual. And 2 is not that unusual. What you do see is you find some unusual things like a founder who's got big ideas and a conductor. So you've got a founder with big ideas, and then they also like to solve minute problems. And so that gets to be really interesting.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you. I should have said I also have these as little handouts with my contact info if you'd like.
All right, last, I think, I didn't miss anybody, right? Last is Derek Storm and Brian Friedman with their wireless sensor table that they will wheel up and
Yeah,
stuff.
we'll leave it back there.
Well, it's a wireless sensor thing, so you should
It's
screw it
wireless,
back anyway,
right?
right?
Because we don't need to
We need a
wheel
table up
anything
here.
around.
Do we need a table up here for demonstration?
Nope.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna put up.
Pull up that website while
Which one do you want, Brian?
Start with the graph or the table. This one first?
Yep.
While they're pulling that up, I'll give you guys a quick overview. Brian and I met through this organization. I work for a company that.
Stand there so
Oh,
we can-
sorry. Oh, that's right.
So the internet can see you.
Hi, Internet.
We'll go to the graph
Anything
later.
in my teeth? Anyway, I work for a company in the Valley Two-Way Communications. We build wireless communications networks. We do a lot of government and public safety work. And I was working on a couple projects redesigning a radio infrastructure for a SCADA for 2 different water authorities. And I noticed that it was better to convert these people over to IP-based networks using cellular or satellite because I can do a lot more with the bandwidth that I've got. And actually those networks are way more cost effective and they can drive multiple applications. So besides doing the SCADA, I can run remote video surveillance equipment, remote asset management systems, et cetera, et cetera. So I watched the projects bog down because there was problems trying to integrate the sensors themselves into different systems, which is not what we were handling, but I was working with the engineers. And in one case, they were trying to take some equipment that had already been installed at a reservoir site and get it to work with an Emerson system that was in use in the city. And all the voltages were different, the proprietary systems that Emerson used, nothing was compatible. So the whole project was bogging down. Then I meet Brian, and he'll tell you what he was working on with Chemical Tank Guy.
Chemical tank guy.
Chemical
Yes.
tank.
Every one of my customers has a nickname that kind of describes what they do. And one morning I got a phone call from Chemical Tank Guy up in Boston, and his business was mixing together chemicals for a franchise that he owned. And he wanted to have tank sensors because the parent company of the franchise had tank sensors that they were offering to measure the level of fluid in the tanks, because he had to go out and replace these at sites, many of which were very, very far away from where he was in Boston. But corporate was charging a lot of money for this, so he called me up and said, I saw one little teeny line on your website that said you work with Arduino and robotics, and I searched, long and hard for someone like you, and it was the 11th hour and I was about ready to give up, so I figured I'd give you a call. And I said, well, thank you very much for letting me know that. I will make that a little more prominent on my website, and that's how I started focusing more on the Arduino and robotic side of things. And I met Derek, and Derek started asking, well, can your technology, do all these other things I'm looking to do? And I said, well, yeah, with a little bit of development, and here we are.
So what we ended up doing was I approached one of my customers and said, I got this interesting technology that I'm talking to this guy about, but I don't really know if it works because I've never seen it in action before. So they allowed us to do a free demo for them, and it worked very well. So we're quoting them, although since they're a bureaucracy, it's harder for them to figure out how to buy it. But in the meantime, we demoed it to a housing authority customer, and we're going to show you kind of some of the stuff there and how it works. But basically they wanted us to measure the effluent levels in their on-site septic tanks because they were having some overflow problems, and I won't get into the crappy alarming system they had.
No pun intended.
Yeah, the crappy system they had. And I found out when you work in the sewage industry, there's like a gazillion puns that you just make unintentionally all the time. But what they wanted, or what we ended up doing, was putting in one of these ultrasonic sensors, which, if you want to go hold that up, which is really an Arduino board with an ultrasonic pulse generator that works like radar. So it bounces off whatever's in front of it, and the Arduino measures the pulse timing and then calculates the distance. One of the nice benefits to what we're doing versus this proprietary stuff is we generate standard SQL data. There's no proprietary anything, so we can run this over any conventional IP network, whether it's cellular, fiber, wired, satellite, it doesn't matter. And we can dump it into any standard compliant SQL database, and then you can run any type of software platform on top of that that works in a SQL environment, and you can export and import data amongst other SQL systems like asset tracking and management, trouble ticketing systems, billing systems, et cetera, et cetera. And whereas the sensors that this client was using, which were vibrating wire piezometers, they say cost them about $2,000 or $2,500, we can sell these for about $600-700 and still make a couple shekels. But the real benefit is the flexibility. Because these have a microprocessor inside, what we did at the Housing Authority, we were measuring the effluent levels, but Brian came and said, well, we can also take current sensing loops and put them on the wires to the pump motors. So that cost about an extra $40 in parts. And now we know not only what the effluent level is in the tanks, but we know when the pumps turn on and off and what current they're drawing. And within the first 24 hours, we noticed that in one of their tanks, one of their pumps was never turning on. They have 2 pumps that cycle back and forth. And we called that to their attention. They had no idea this was going on. And it turned out to be that when they installed the pump, the electrician didn't get the wiring hooked up properly. And from day one, that pump had never run. And they had no idea that was going on. So they were very happy about that. In another case, we noticed the current draw, where mostly the pumps would come on, there'd be a spike, it'd fall back a little bit, stay fairly constant, and then the current would drop off and the pump turned off. Except for one, which it would go up a little bit, and come down, and go up, and it ran twice as long. We called that to their attention. They went in and looked into it and found out the bearings were starting to go on the pump. So based on that, they're going to be our first paid customer that we're installing later this week.
Got 4 minutes?
Huh? 4 minutes? Fine, because we're about done.
Okay, well, we got
You want me to pour water in this for you?
Yeah, so now,
So I'll show you the E-tapes. This is
Yeah.
the ultrasonic sensor.
you can show me E-tape.
Okay, and I'll show you what's on screen. Can you zoom out just a little bit? Thanks for zooming in. But what we're showing you is the actual SQL data that's coming from the 2 sensors there. We brought an ultrasonic sensor and the E-tape. And the E-tape is exactly like a ruler. It's 3D printed. And when you immerse it in liquid, the resistance of the E-tape changes so you can sense how high the liquid level is. This is a sampling of the data we're getting live right now. It's being sent from the sensors to a base station in the back of the room,
It's that orange box over there.
to a cradle point, which is connected to the internet through a cellular connection, and then coming up here on the internet through Tim's computer. So anyone can go on any web or any of their phones or computers and see this actual data that's publicly available, and it's showing you all the readings over time, time-stamped live as they happen.
What?
Is that right?
Yeah, the time diff, the 4 and the 21, just show you how many seconds it's been since the last update.
Gosh, and then you have to refresh it every,
Right. You want to show them the graph?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bring that up as soon as I can find it. Here we go.
All right. You can zoom out on that one, I guess. So if you want to see, right now I have these sensors set to take a reading about every 15 or 20 seconds, and these graphs will show you the last 30 readings that we're getting from each one. The top is the E-tape, the bottom is the ultrasonic sensor distance that we've been waving around, so we're getting wildly different readings. But it's showing you the last reading and the timestamp.
Which just happened, is when I poured the water in, you saw that's where it increased the level. So we'd actually install this in a stream in the winter, and to measure the depth, because the water authority, they have to report to the state how much water is coming out of their reservoir and going into the water basin below it. So one of the other cool things is once we have this SQL database information, we use a software package and we can compile and generate all of their regulatory required reports automatically for them every month without them having to do it manually, which saves them a ton of time. And as the guy said, I trust this equipment more than I trust my own people in terms of being accurate and reading and not making errors when they're, because literally what they do is they write this stuff down and they come back and they enter it into an Excel spreadsheet and it goes on down the chain. So that's kind of it.
There you go.
Any questions?
2 minutes. 1 minute, sorry.
1 minute. One question. See, we did such a good job explaining.
I had a question. Oh, the most impressive thing I think is that you have a cell signal up here somehow.
I know.
Yeah, that's what we're all talking about.
I had to keep that right up against that window. When I moved it 3 inches away from the window, the cell signal died.
Thank you, guys. All right, I'm gonna stop this timer before it goes off. So interesting too, Ty, and I think what you're saying is similar to what Matt was saying, that it's cheaper to put together a microcontroller with a couple sensors than buy the actual legacy style sensor. Throw a whole computer at it and just measure things a lot better. So thanks you all for presenting. Let me bring up the LVTech information once again. A few things. First of all, feel free to eat more pizza. You know, it's back there. If you don't eat it, I have to eat it. And you know, obviously I don't need to eat more pizza, but I'll do it if I have to. There we go. So if you want more information about LVTech, definitely go to LVTech, we don't own that domain. LehighValleyTech.org. Click on the link that says Meetup. We do a couple other things. We do a podcast every 2 weeks or so, depending on who's around. And sometimes I even upload them. And then we do run a couple events every year. The one that's coming up is Venture Lehigh Valley. We used to do a startup weekend in the fall. This is going to be the same target audience, kind of. Very startup and entrepreneurial focus, but it's going to expand that a little bit to include ventures, say, from existing businesses. So maybe it's a small team that is looking to create a new product based on some of the things that they've done in the past. Perhaps it's a larger team that's looking to build, say, a line of business application to help them increase the profitability internally. And we'll enable all those teams to come to the weekend and kind of test out their idea, build their venture, and then it'll be judged on Sunday. Very similar to how we do with the hackathons and other events in the past. It is a very open and collaborative environment. So should you be doing something you care about the intellectual property of, you should not bring it to that weekend. But if you're looking for collaboration, if you're looking to work with people that are outside your normal team, maybe get a different perspective on what you're building, definitely a place to come. So check out venture.lehighvalleytech.org. There'll be more information there, hopefully in another week or so. Another thing that we're doing that's interesting this year is there will be a series of events before that weekend to help people test their ideas, validate their ideas, as well as learn how to do prototyping if you're building a physical product, and realize what types of prototyping machines and technology exist that hadn't in the past. And also a session right before the weekend on how to perfect your pitch. Because the weekend starts with you communicating in 60 seconds your idea to the rest of the room, others who are looking for ideas to join, teams to form with, so helping you perfect that. So a great idea doesn't get lost because the pitch just doesn't communicate it well enough. So we'd love for you to check out venture.lehighvalleytech.org and be a part of that this October. Also, again, Maker Faire New York is coming up. If you want to get on the bus ride there, definitely just Google Lehigh Valley Make and bus trip, and you'll find it. It's Crowd Pleaser, right? Crowd Pleaser. Or if you're on Twitter, go to Twitter and look at the LVTech stream. We've been tweeting links about it for the past week or so. You'll definitely find the information there. A great group of people to go with and a great event to go to, and you'll get to see Tobar, the brick throwing robot arm that you use your hand to control. So hope you enjoyed the meetup. Thank you for coming out, and just like I said, go to meetup.com to find out more stuff that we're doing, and grab some pizza if you haven't had enough.